With less than a year to the presidential election, the candidates have already raised more than $650 million, but there's much more to come.
Some political analysts believe more money could be spent on the 2020 race than the last election. News 8's Mal Meyer joins us now to explain where all this money comes from and how it influences voters in this News 8 Investigates.
Over the years, the amount of money spent on presidential races has gone up significantly. In 2000, about $1.4 billion was spent on the election versus about $2.4 billion in 2016, according to the Center for Responsive Politics. Part of this money comes from outside groups either supporting or opposing the candidates. When and how that money is spent could play an important role in which name you see on the ballot. It won't be long until you start seeing a whole lot more of this.
We are going to keep on winning.
I know what's wrong. I know how to fix it.
We got to build on what we did.
Especially if you live in Wisconsin.
If Wisconsin is the most important state, we're going to be awash in campaign spending.
That's because
presidential elections are really expensive.
Unless you're running at the very hyper-local level, are going to have a candidate be able to talk to every voter.
To get their message out to as many voters as possible, candidates have to pay for trips, TV ads, social media posts, campaign offices, yard signs, and print materials for volunteers to pass out across the U.S.
A candidate can't do this all themselves, and so you have to have money to pay for those things.
Let's look at the 2016 presidential election. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton raised about $564 million, compared to Republican nominee Donald Trump, who raised about $333 million in campaign contributions. What that doesn't include is the millions upon millions raised by super PACs.
They can take in as much money as they can possibly take in.
In 2010, the Supreme Court ruled in Citizens United versus FEC that any individual or organization can give as much or as little as they want to outside groups dedicated to help a candidate win or lose, as long as that group doesn't coordinate efforts with a candidate.
People will be able to donate $1 million, $10 million, $50 million.
Since that ruling, spending from outside groups, largely super PACs, has gone up dramatically.
Making America great again.
You know, corporations were basically allowed now to spend directly to tell you who to vote for and who to vote against. They could do it in a basically unlimited way.
In 2008, outside groups spent about $230 million on the presidential election. That amount nearly tripled after the Supreme Court's ruling, and it's only gone up since then.
This is a huge surge of cash into elections.
Some candidates have distanced themselves from super PACs.
From the beginning, I said that I would not take any corporate money.
We need a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United.
I do not come from some major campaign super PAC.
The reality is that we don't have a lot of control sometimes, right, over what other people are going to do.
Sachin Chedda is a Democratic strategist based in Milwaukee and has worked on state and federal campaigns.
Campaigns can't really tell super PACs what to do or what not to do. They can kind of publicly say, I don't want any super PAC support. And what that really just means is I don't want support where big money is being put into some other organization that's then carrying a message that I as a campaign can't control.
Huge amounts of corporate money just flood the system.
Tell the world that you're ready to be brave.
We need universal health care that improves access, quality, and cost.
Bill Weld cut taxes 21 times. He balanced the budget.
So how can voters know what or who to trust?
We're just trying to persuade you to vote for a particular candidate or to vote against a particular candidate, and to persuade you to show up in a particular election.
Chedda says, be careful what you listen to. Look at the disclaimer and find out who paid for the ad. Find out if it was authorized by the candidate or someone else.
It's important to trust, I think, what candidates say about themselves and what candidates say about their opponents, and try to kind of keep out the noise of what independent groups are trying to say.
So I mentioned that some people have already come out to say that I don't support super PAC spending on my behalf, but Chergosky believes that some of these candidates might be changing their tune, especially because they'll find that they just don't have enough money on their own to get the exposure that they kind of really need to keep the campaign going.
Sure. So how does $1 million and millions of dollars in outside spending from these groups change an election?
Yep. So if you look back at certain races, especially during the 2016 presidential election, you'll notice that there were a bunch of campaigns, like I said, that needed the super PAC spending to kind of keep going. There were at least 9 top candidates that had more outside spending for them than they were able to raise on their own.
All right, thank you very much, Mel. Interesting story tonight.